Imagine giving birth to your child and being told minutes later that your baby died. You never saw the body. You never held them. You were simply handed a piece of paper and told to grieve and move on. Now imagine, 50 years later, discovering your child never died at all. They were alive. They had a family, a name, a life, and the people who took them? They were doctors, priests, nuns, trusted by an entire nation. This is not a thriller. This is not fiction. This happened in Spain for 5 decades, and the world barely noticed. To understand this story, you need to go back to 1939. Franco has just won the Spanish Civil War. A brutal, calculating dictator, Franco doesn't just want political control. He wants to reshape the soul of Spain itself. And to do that, he partners with the most powerful institution in the country, the Catholic Church. Together, they build a new Spain, conservative, Catholic, obedient. But there is a problem. Hundreds of thousands of Republicans, socialists, and political enemies are still living in the country. Franco's regime considers these people and their children a threat to everything he is building. So they devise a solution, a quiet one, a patient one. They would take the children. It started with ideology. Franco's chief psychiatrist, Dr. Antonio Vallejo Noguera, genuinely believed that left-wing political views were a genetic defect, a mental disease that could be passed from parent to child like a virus. He once wrote that Marxism was not just a political idea, but a biological infection that needed to be cut out of Spanish society. His solution was chilling in its simplicity. Remove children from families he considered inferior and place them with families he considered morally worthy, meaning pro-Franco, Catholic households. In the early years, the targets were the children of political prisoners. Women giving birth in Franco's jails would deliver their babies and wake up to find them gone. No grave, no proof, no goodbye. Just a nurse shaking her head and a death certificate already signed. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. The program did not stop when Franco died in 1975. It evolved. By the 1960s and 70s, this had become something almost industrial, running silently through hospitals, clinics, and Catholic care homes across the entire country. Here is how it worked. A young mother, often poor, often unmarried, would give birth in a hospital. Sometimes she was perfectly healthy. Sometimes she was sedated during the delivery without her knowledge. And when she woke up, a doctor or nurse would appear at her bedside with the same devastating words. "We are so sorry. Your baby didn't survive." She would ask to see the body. She would be told it wasn't possible, for hygiene reasons, for her own emotional well-being. Some mothers were shown a tiny frozen corpse, a body kept on ice, reused to show multiple grieving mothers in the same ward. A death certificate would be quietly signed. A small fee would change hands. And somewhere else in the same building, sometimes in a room just down the corridor, a Catholic couple who had been waiting months, sometimes years, would be handed a healthy newborn baby. No adoption papers, no legal trail, just a child with a new name and a new life. The doctors did it, the nuns did it, the priests arranged it, and the government looked the other way. Estimates suggest that over 200,000 children were taken this way, between the late 1930s and as late as the 1990s. The 1990s, not ancient history, within the lifetime of people who are adults today. For decades, the mothers carried this grief in silence. In Franco's Spain, you did not question the church. You did not question the hospital. You buried your pain and you moved on. But silence has a limit. In the 2000s, something began to shift. Elderly women started speaking. Support groups quietly formed. Investigators began pulling at hospital records, and what they found was impossible to ignore. Graveyards listed children with no burial plots. Death certificates were signed by doctors who had never examined the infants. Entire births appeared in hospital records with no outcome noted. No survival, no death, just a name and then nothing. One woman named Maria Jose Lavilla spent 40 years believing her son had died hours after birth in 1971. Then, in 2010, a DNA registry was set up for families searching for each other. She found her son. He was living less than 200 kilometers away. He had no idea he had been stolen. Stories like hers emerged by the hundreds. and then by the thousands. Now you might expect what comes next to be a story of justice, investigations, prosecutions, accountability. It was not. Cases were filed, names were named, and then, slowly, quietly, almost nothing happened. Key figures had died, records had been destroyed, the statute of limitations had expired on most crimes. The Catholic Church issued no formal apology. Only a handful of individuals were ever prosecuted, and most escaped conviction entirely. Spain's Supreme Court ruled in 2012 that most cases were simply too old to pursue. Victims groups called it a second betrayal. Mothers who had waited 50 years for justice were told by their own legal system it was too long ago. Move on. One nun, prosecuted as late as 2018, had her case dropped on health grounds. She walked free. The mother she had stolen from did not get the same mercy. The stolen generation of Spain remains one of the least prosecuted mass crimes in modern European history. History has a habit of hiding its worst chapters in plain sight. This wasn't ancient Rome. This wasn't the Dark Ages. This was hospitals with electricity, doctors with medical degrees, nuns in clean white habits. And it happened while Europeans were buying televisions and watching the moon landing. The scariest atrocities are never the ones committed in darkness. They are the ones committed in daylight by trusted people, while everyone around them chose not to look. 200,000 children, 5 decades, almost zero justice. If this story shocked you, and it should, share this video. Because the first step toward justice is simply making sure people know it happened,